Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me today for this session on building thought leadership. It's one of my favorite topics. And before we get started, though, we're going to play a little game. So I need everyone's attention because it's a very important game. It's called Who Is This Guy? Okay, but like any game, there are rules. And I'm going to give you a series of clues. And if you figure out who it is, just simply raise your hand. Don't shout it out. No cheating. Okay? So let's start. For 16 years, he ran channels for the likes of Lenovo and IBM. And then at some point, he decided to put on an entrepreneur hat and start his own tech startup called Channelize. Anyone? Anyone? Okay. He then pivoted from there into analyst mode and started his now famous lists, top 100 technology women, top 100 most visible channel leaders. Anybody else? Then got snapped up by an analyst firm at Forrester, started creating all of his more famous tech stacks and things, top 67 channel associations, and mastering the moments of the 28 moments of the customer journey. Who knows who this is? Of course. We're talking about my friend, Jay McBain, right here in the audience. Exactly, who's that guy? So what I wanted to demonstrate, though, is it takes a long time to build thought leadership. I mean, Jay's been in the channel a very long time. He had been running channels for 16 years and on before some folks even recognized him as a thought leader in the industry. But what is a thought leader? You know, it's one of the important things people always ask me, you know, what is a thought leader? And I found what I think is one of the best definitions. Someone who's recognized by peers, customers, and industry experts as someone deeply understands the business that they're in, the needs of their customers, and the broader marketplace in which they operate. They may have distinctively original ideas, unique points of view, and new insights. But why is it important to become a thought leader? Well, simply stated, it makes dollars and cents. Right? So according to Gallup, over 70% of the buying decision is emotional. And that probably doesn't come as a shock to anyone. I mean, when's the last time you were in a store and you're like, I just really want to buy that or whatever because you liked the person, right? Or you buy a piece of technology because you really vibe with the salesperson. Over 70% of it is emotional. And when your partners do business with you or your company, they want to know that you're a thought leader because they want to know that they like you, right? They want to do business with you. 65% of those surveyed said thought leadership significantly changed the perception of a company for the better. The channel is even noisier than it's ever been. So how do you stand out from a very crowded marketplace? 63% of the same people said thought leadership is important, proving that an organization genuinely understands the needs of their customers. So again, really from the professional side, it's important. But what about from your career perspective? There was a study done, 82% of recruiters are saying that being a thought leader is very important when you're looking for a new job. Janet Shines, who's there in the audience today too, we were talking the other day about so many CROs are saying that they're thinking about maybe eliminating their channel organization altogether. And I found out today, just last week, one of the companies that was supposed to be here, they dissolved their entire channel organization. So it could be likely that you may need to find another job. And so it's important for your career to be seen as a thought leader. Becoming a thought leader was one of the most important things I did for my career many, many years ago. In 2007, I was working on Wall Street. I was a mortgage trader and making lots of zeros. And then all of a sudden, everything upended. The mortgage market melted down. They shut my division. At the same time, I was 8.5 months pregnant with my first child, and my mom had a brain aneurysm, leaving her paraplegic. In 3 months, I lost my job, I had a brand new baby, and I had to take care of my mom. I knew I couldn't go back and do anything full time, but I also knew I had to reinvent myself, and how was I going to do it? So I called all of my old brokers and all my old customers, and I said, how can I help you? I can do sales training or marketing. And they all said they wanted their websites to rank on the first page of Google searches. I was like, well, how hard can that be, right? Well, turns out it's pretty hard. I had no idea it was even called search engine optimization. I knew nothing about it. And I thought, well, how am I going to do this? And everybody wanted me to take their course or read their book. And I thought, well, I'm pretty smart, right? If I could just find someone to show me how to do it, I can do it. So that's what I did. I found someone, paid for their time, and reinvented myself in search engine optimization and social media in a very short period of time. And not only did that set the seed and the stage for the startup that I have today, but it also set all of these information that I'm going to share with you on how to be a thought leader. I then took that experience and I worked with the world's largest brands on their SEO and social media over the years. I wrote 9 books. But one of the things that I did notice was that the peers and colleagues in the social media space, their business were going much, much better than mine. And I thought, why? I have all this great content, all this stuff. Well, when I started studying what they do for the ones who make multiple 7 figures, it was because they were out there being thought leaders, creating incredible content. Do all of you know who Gary Vee is? Gary Vaynerchuk? Everybody know who he is? Well, do you remember him when he was the wine guy? 2005, he started Wine TV to support his, on YouTube, to support his parents' wine business, right? And then he parlayed that into being a YouTube thought leader on how to, set up YouTube channels very successfully. And now he's a probably billionaire, travels all over the world, talks about setting up, content and thought leadership. So thought leadership can definitely lead down that road for you all. For me, I've been in the channel for many years in multiple different channels. I was in the telecom channel for a while. I was in the IT channel for a while. I was on the mortgages. It was a channel per se because I was reselling the bank's products to a channel of brokers. And I've reestablished myself to a degree in the IT channel. I've been on a few of Jay's lists. And we launched my startup channel-wise last May, and we've already become well known because of me being at the helm, my thought leadership. And I've also teamed up with my friend Amy Bailey, who is very well known as a thought leader in the telecom industry. And we've working together to bring the Channel Marketing Association to life to help channel marketers, give them a safe space to up-level their craft. So, and we just launched in January, beginning of January, and we're already here at PartnerCon running roundtables and things like that because of the thought leadership that we have put together. But you might think, well, Gary Vee did it with wine, that's fun, and you worked with these really great brands and social media, and and Channel Marketing Association sounds fun, but what about IT? What about telecom, right? It's like, how am I going to make that fun? Well, if you don't think IT or telecom is fun, what about doors? That's right, I said doors. One of the women that first hired me all the way back in 2009 for search engine optimization is this woman, Lori Green. She worked for a company that built door hardware, and she realized that there wasn't a place for architects and building inspectors and things like that to go find easily building codes for door openings. And so she started this blog called I Dig Hardware, and has since, with our work together, has since parlayed this into a global blog. And you might think, well, doors are kind of boring, right? Well, it's not boring if you want to get out in a fire. You want to make sure that the people who designed this building, the people who built the building, had the information that they needed so you could get out safely. So she's then turned this into a huge property, over 750,000 page views. She's now known globally as an expert in this. And she's not a consultant yet, but that's likely her succession plan when she decides to do that. What about you? Are you well known in your industry? Do people know what you stand for? And can anyone be a thought leader? Yes, literally yes. You don't have to have Jay's boyish good looks or his penchant for lists. Every single person in this room has what it takes to become a thought leader for yourself and for your company. So let's talk about the steps. And when I talk about these steps, these are the exact steps that I've taken over and over and over again to reinvent myself. So this is what I do and how I live it. So I'm hopefully that you'll all be able to take these and use them for yourself. So first, identify a niche, or niche. If you're Canadian, it's niche, but for the rest of us, niche. But identify that niche. Where do you want to show up, right? What is important to you? Is it a vertical? Is it a specific technology? What is that? And how does it resonate with you? Something that really resonates with you, that you feel like you can solve that problem. What is that? And it doesn't mean Though if you choose one niche, that's where you have to stay forever. I mean, look at Jay. He was a channel chief, and then he moved on to start his own tech startup, and now he's an analyst. So he could use these same steps to reinvent himself as a boat captain, because I think that's probably one of his goals someday. So just thinking through that niche, where do you want to show up? Next, deepen your knowledge. Remember when I said that thought leadership makes dollars and cents? And it was because when you're looking at that, the people that you're doing your thought leadership for want to know that you actually know what you're talking about. So once you decide on a niche, make sure you're looking at the different areas, publications, who are the influencers that you're following, to make sure that you're getting all of the knowledge that you need to go out there and represent in an authentic way. Next, I can't stress this very strongly enough, building your personal and company brand. What is it that you stand for? So when you decide on your niche, how do you want to show up? What's important to you? How do you infuse that in all of your thought leadership? And of course, you all here, most of you work for other companies. You want to know how can you take that personal brand and bring it into the company brand and then stand out online and other places as well. So here's my personal brand. Live a life of purpose and meaning, dedicated to serving others and making a positive impact in the world. Very important to me. Continuously grow and learn. I like to say I'm a learn-it-all, right? So, when I started my tech company, I actually taught myself enough code to be dangerous as a seasoned person, shall we say, seasoned, I guess. But it was important for me to understand it so I could then build it, right? Embracing new challenges and experiences with humility and humor, because, life's not always fun, but you can laugh. Building, maintain strong relationships. Anyone who knows me in the channel knows it's one of my best things. I love to build and maintain strong relationships and approach each day with gratitude and a positive attitude. Now, as a solo tech founder of a startup, I have to say that I don't always do that, but I try. I definitely endeavor, but it's on my personal brand. So when you read anything about me online, you think about this, you can see a lot of this in what I post. And of course, for my company, we want to be the go-to destination for channel professionals and partners to get the advice, education, and resources to support their businesses, be it through our online thought leadership and our partnerships with vendors, or our platform, or in person at our coaching cafes. So I take the two of those and then I blend them together in all of the things that I do. Step 4, now we want to engage and expand our network. If you don't follow Jay McBain, you should. He has lots and lots of lists, and all of them have really good things in them. Like he just posted one the other day, it's 270 top events in the channel. It really should be 271, but we'll talk about that later, because the Channel Marketing Association's having our own event too, but it didn't make the cut yet. It will. So, but we do know in the channel that there's probably a lot more than 270. I mean, you could probably be at a channel event every day. But that's a good place to start, to figure out where it is that you can start getting out there and getting known as a thought leader. Also, who are you following? Who are you aligning yourselves with? That also helps you with your personal brand. And you want to get out there and engage with folks. Now, let's say you have your end customer, like let's say it's a retail niche. So you want your partners, right, that are selling in that, but you also can see that there's a retail association event. Maybe you should be there. Maybe you should sponsor a partner to go be there and be on a panel or something. So thinking outside the box, it doesn't always have to be about being in the channel. It could be with your end customers as well. So thinking about how you're engaging and expanding your network. Next, be visible. Does being visible mean you have to stand up here and do these presentations? And I know there are people in this room who would literally rather light themselves on fire than stand up here and do a solo presentation. But the beautiful thing is today you don't have to. You don't have to be up here doing this by yourself. You could be on a panel. You could do a webinar right from the comfort of your home office, right? You can write posts. You can write content online. But the most important thing is to be visible. If a tree falls in the woods, does anyone hear it? No, only if someone else is in the woods. So you have to, if you really endeavor to be a great thought leader, you have to show up online. The other thing is creating compelling content. And I add the word compelling because I don't know about you, but there have been many times, particularly lately, really since like the last 18 months of ChatGPT, not that there's anything wrong with it, But a lot of it is just this content that it looks like it was just created, from ChatGPT basically. And a couple weeks ago, I was on LinkedIn and I saw this great ebook and it had top 6 steps to something. And I was like, that would be interesting. So I gave him my information, I downloaded it, and it was a 3-page commercial for the company. I immediately unfollowed them. I was so angry because it wasted my time. So if you're going to do it, create compelling content. I'm not saying that you can't have your BuzzFeedy headline, clickbaity things, that's fine. But for your own personal thought leadership, you want it to be compelling and then consistent. You don't want to show up and then go away and show up and then go away. If you follow leaders like Janet and Amy and Jay and others in the room, you see how often they post. And it doesn't always have to be authentic, and original content. It could be they're reposting someone else's ideas and just commenting on them. So show up consistently and create compelling content. Next, you want to embrace authenticity and have yourself be viewed as credible. People ask me all the time, what does authenticity mean? Does it mean I say everything that's on my mind all the time? No. Lord, no. When I'm up here, I have my speaker hat on. When I'm having a glass of wine with Amy, I have my friend hat on. When I'm sitting down with my best friend from 4th grade, I have a whole different hat on when I'm home with my kids, right? We all have these different personas. It doesn't mean that it's not authentic if I don't speak the same way I speak to Amy that I am on stage, right? So you just have to think about what authenticity means to you and infuse that personal brand, that statement that you wrote, into all of your content. So for me, I like to be funny. I like to be, irreverent a little bit and really kind of infuse my personality in my brand. And here's a really good example of that. A few years ago, a lot of people sent me this article. It really set off a firestorm globally. A day in the life of this banking executive, wakes up at 5:30 to works out, always eats green, and studies, at a prestigious university in her free time. And the interesting thing about it was I did not personally see the article. I just got sent it, for a lot of people sent it to me. I don't know about you all, but do you have anyone in your friend group or your business colleagues that they're like, somebody should say something, let's call that person. Well, in my friend group, that's me. They're like, somebody should say something. Let's call Kathryn. So I get sent this. People are texting it to me from my banking days all the way through, at that time, I think it was 2018 or 19. And I read it and I was like, well, no big deal with the headline. But then when you started looking at it, so they get up at 5:30 in the morning, they play tennis, they get to the office around 9:30, they drink their green drink, then they sit lovely by the ocean having their 90-minute lunch, do yoga, then get home around 7 or 7:30 or 8 and walk around the neighborhood with their significant other. I was like, now I see why people, thought this was a little bit over the top, right? So I printed it out. I'm sitting around with my family at dinner, and I showed it to my son. It was 9 at the time, and he's reading this, and he's like, Mom, this can't be real. I was like, I know, let's do a spoof. I was like, come on, help me out. In 45 minutes, we art-directed my story. A real day in the life of a CEO, startup tech company, wakes up at 4:30, and I really do this actually, wakes up at 4:30, hardly has time to eat, and has no free time. We start at 4:30 in the morning with me on the phone with my tech team, and my offshore tech team. My husband says, do you really want to show up online in your bathrobe? I'm like, it's hilarious. Who's going to see it anyway? Next, getting the kids up for school, begging them, please put your shoes on and get on the bus. Then go sit in traffic on my way to my co-working space, only to realize that my son left his saxophone home for the 10,000th time, run all the way home, get that. Then I have to switch hats, go to another pitch competition, begging for money for my startup. Then getting to the vending machine and getting some crackers for lunch, back at my desk, buying this best store-bought chicken money can buy, only to shove it down my kids' throats as I get them to hockey and lacrosse and all the rest of their things, begging them to brush their teeth before they go to bed, and then my husband and I folding the seemingly unending basket of laundry and finally falling asleep at 9 o'clock. That was my day. So I finished the pictures or whatever. I get to the airport. I was speaking at an event in Texas, I think it was. I get to the airport, I upload everything to LinkedIn, I get on my plane, I land, and my phone is blowing up. And I'm like, what's going on? Well, the CEO of LinkedIn found my post and shared it. You can only imagine what happened. Hundreds of thousands of views, tens of thousands of comments. It went crazy viral, right? So I didn't even try. I just was trying to be funny. I mean, I don't know if I would have shown up in my bathrobe if I know he was going to show her. But I mean, but that's what it was. It was that authentic voice, right? People were like, she gets me. And the most important thing when you think back to my brand statement was making an impact. I had people from all over the world, you don't realize, all over the world messaging me saying, thank you for being real, right? You get me. I thought I was doing it wrong. And really interestingly, last year I spoke at an event in Paris. And this woman from Monaco, very small country, comes up to me, she goes, I saw that. And we connected on LinkedIn because of that. So you just never know the impact that your thought leadership's going to have. So for me, for my personal brand, it was very, very much aligned, right? I was being authentic, creating meaningful impact. And then for my professional brand, it was great too, because what's one of the fastest ways to get the advice you need when you need it for busy channel professionals? I'm so glad you asked, ChannelWise. So we got that. Okay, so let's go over the steps again. First, identify the niche. In any thought leadership journey, you can't be everything to everybody. So start someplace first. Then deepen your knowledge. Again, if you're going to show up in a niche, you want people want to know that you really know what you're talking about, okay? Craft compelling content. Make sure, especially for your own personal brand, that what you do, it doesn't have to be original. You know, a lot of the lists that Jay puts together, he takes publicly available information and culls them into meaningful lists that can help people see where they can go in their career, right? Could be on a list of his and know what events to go to and things like that. Building your personal and company brand, making sure that that is kind of the guiding star, the North Star of all the things that you create, kind of feeds into that as well. Be visible and be consistent. Again, you don't want to show up and go away and show up and go away. So try to think about something that you can do that can help you be visible and consistent, and embrace authenticity. Last, but certainly not least, you want to measure and adapt or iterate. When I was a social media consultant all those years ago, people would say to me, what's the ROI of social media, right? And even to this day, you can't even really draw a dotted line between a LinkedIn post and a sale. But you know that it works when you're on stage in Paris and someone comes up to you and says, I saw your article. Or you're walking through a channel event and they're like, hey, thanks for posting that, or thanks for sharing that. Or people will message you and say, hey, will you be on my panel? So in the beginning, you're out there asking, right? And then as you start going, they start asking you. So that's the impact that you're making. Are partners doing more business with you because they see you as a thought leader? So that's the important thing. And then if you're not seeing those shares and comments and things, well, maybe it's the wrong niche, or maybe you're trying to target the wrong audience. So you want to make sure you iterate. But let's face it, folks, you're not going to be everybody's cup of joe, right? I'm not everybody's cup of tea either, and that's okay, because as from Jay, my favorite friend of the room today, if you look at this, more than 45,000 MSPs, and if MSPs aren't your target, but you're looking at 300,000 ITSPs, or more than that globally. I'm sure you could carve out a niche for yourself and some customers out of those numbers, so you don't have to be everything to everyone. And I also want to stress this, I can't stress it enough. It takes a lifetime to build a reputation and about 3 seconds to destroy it. Whatever you do, make sure, if someone posts something incendiary online, take a breath, right, before you do that, because it will come back to haunt you. Even a like, a retweet, or a comment or something can be viewed as an endorsement. So if it's not part of your personal brand or your company brand, put that hat on that you might share with your friend over a glass of wine, or your kids or your husband at home, and just leave your professional life different. I always tell my kids, always assume you're under surveillance. That's just the world that we live in today. And the other thing I wanted to mention too, how many of you are in here that have teams? How many are managers of teams? It doesn't have to all be about you. One of the best things about the channel is that we are always trying to foster leaders to come up behind us. And how can you do that? Give them permission to be thought leaders themselves. Ask them, have them go through these steps with you. Where do they want to show up? Because you're not going to resonate with everybody. So if you can go ahead and foster that thought leadership within your team, you can then exponentially really bring your reach out, right? And get partners and customers that want to do more business with you. So it's important. Leaders, really foster new leaders. Make sure you're doing that for your team. Growth is going to require you to step outside your comfort zone. When I first started in channel, I was nervous. I went to all the events. The 5,000, acronyms that we have, right? Just learning all those was a little bit crazy. But as I started getting to know it and people started getting to know me, that's when things started to happen. But you have to step outside your comfort zone. And you have to make sure, thinking about the steps to thought leadership. Again, identify the niche, deepen your knowledge, craft this compelling content, build your personal company brand, be visible and consistent, embrace authenticity, measure, and of course, iterate. And then just go do it. Really, that's all it takes is intention. You set your intention and you go and you do it. And it can start with one post. It can start with one article. It can start at this event when you're interacting with others in your niche in this industry. It can start just simply by that. So thank you very much. I appreciate your time, and I'm here to take any questions. Thank you. Yes?
You talked a lot about LinkedIn. What about TikTok, and what about X? What about Facebook? What about the 10 other places you can be?
I mentioned LinkedIn because that's really like the B2B platform. I do have a profile on X, and some people, what I like to say is what resonates with you. Like Amy's a TikToker, like she loves TikTok, right? And that's not to say that I don't love TikTok, but does my customer live on TikTok? I don't know. So it would really just depend on where your customers lived. I just use LinkedIn as an example.